welcome back to another episode of Just Be You. I'm here today with the fabulous Tammie, and I'm so excited for our conversation. She's a beautiful spirit, a beautiful person. The minute we met and we spoke, we just hit it off right off the bat, and I'm so excited to hear her story, for her to share and impart a little bit of her wisdom to the rest of us who need it and want it and can definitely use it. So we're just gonna get right into it. So Tammie, how you doing, girl?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I know how you're doing. I was gonna say how are you doing because that's like a reflex, but I know how you're doing. So, but I'm doing well. I am being resilient and going with the flow of things, right?
Yes, we love resilience. If that's one thing that we can all just learn how to be better at, I guess. Although, things happen, life happens, and you just kind of duck and weave as you see fit. But resilience is definitely key. But on that note, so how long have you been a recruiter?
Yeah, so recruiting for me is like a kind of a interesting story because I actually didn't start recruiting at the beginning of my career. So I actually started as a communications person, and I did internal communications and public relations. And then it got to a point in my career where I really wanted to start thinking about, having my little boy and, just kind of changing. And I think communications is great, but I think you do suffer burnout. And so I was just looking to shift in a different direction. So I came into recruiting. It was totally by accident. I walked into a recruiting firm and I told them, hey, I'm looking for a contract or something. Do y'all have anything that could be a good fit for me? And they're like, why don't you work here? And I was like, what? Because in my mind, I had never thought of that. I had never, I have no HR background originally. And I was like, how would I even do that? And they're like, oh no, we train you because they only hired people that had a creative background. That was how that agency worked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's so, right. Yeah. And that particular agency, I will tell you offline because I don't know if they'll come and get me for telling you on your lovely podcast.
That's fair.
But so I got into training there and, went through the process and was very open to learning because it was something totally new for me, and have been recruiting ever since. So it's been 7 years now that I've been recruiting. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
So in those 7 years, what was your favorite moment of it? And what are the benefits of using a recruiter?
Yeah, so recruiting for me, the best part about it is working with candidates and learning their story, learning more about them, learning more about, what they're looking for, what kind of projects they're into, hearing the things that they've worked on. I mean, I talked to somebody one time who had actually worked on a tool for the deaf, which I thought was really amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was just he created a website that was for the deaf. And I thought that was fascinating, but it's meeting people like that I typically wouldn't come across that I really enjoy about the process. So meeting a recruiter, it's kind of up to you. It's kind of an open thing. So there are two different types of recruiters, or different types of recruiters. I'll put it that way, because some people may have more specializations, but there's typically an agency recruiter that is working for a larger recruiting firm. And so they will have multiple clients and be looking for candidates to work for those clients. And then there's internal recruiters, and they just work for the organization that they're hiring for. So that would be Google. Google has internal recruiters. Sometimes Google uses agencies too, because I have, placed people in Google before, but they will also use a internal recruiter to hire people directly. So your internal recruiter is going to be the brand ambassador for the company, the front line, the first person you talk to, and they're going to really sell you on why it's great to work there. And then once you start working there, they're going to be your coworker too. That's how that process works. And so those are different. I think the agency recruiter is like the recruiter that you might seek out if you're like in between jobs and you're looking for leads, or maybe you're looking for a change and you don't know what's out there. An agency recruiter is going to have their hand on the pulse of what's out there and be able to tell you like, hey, this is the market. These are the roles that I'm seeing in the market, and help you in that way. Agency recruiters kind of have like a bad rap sometimes.
Yes. And then
Yeah, because and have you heard that? Have you heard,
well,
like,
yeah, that was one of my things that I was like, oh, let's kind of clear this up, because just like historically, people just like, oh, like people, I don't know, they think that a recruiter is like, I don't know, the devil, or like they're not trustworthy. But for whatever reason, recruiters get like a bad name. And I'm like, well, like people recruit for a bunch of different things. So like, let's just nip that in the bud, people. You don't have to be scared of the recruiter. The recruiter's trying to help you. Come on.
It's your friend. And listen, I have had bad experiences too. I have been ghosted by a recruiter, and I'm a recruiter. I think that like the thing is that a lot of times, especially for an agency recruiter, there are very specific client expectations they're hoping to fill. And so sometimes those things don't work out. Sometimes, within the agency, maybe there's an account manager that doesn't agree that that person's a good fit. So there's a lot of different factors as to why the person may not move forward. I totally don't make excuses for anyone that ghosts someone. But sometimes when there's a big delay in feedback and like next steps, that's like where it's coming from. It's coming from that, delay from whatever other factors are at play. I will say too, internal recruiters have kind of a negative stigma as well. But I would also say right now, internal recruiters are a big bulk of the layoffs that you're seeing in tech. I've met a lot of really great recruiters, and I have a lot of great recruiters that I know from being in the industry a while that have been cut because there was this huge need coming out of 2020 to kind of staff global resources, and now the need is less because of whatever economic weirdness is going on. So there are people looking. I would say a lot of people say a recruiter, that's an easy job, anybody can do it. I don't agree with that. There is a lot of like emotional issues, I guess, is there's a lot of emotion, like emotional stuff that you go through being a recruiter, because a lot of times if you believe in a candidate enough to say, I think you could be a good fit for this role, and you put them forward, you really want to see them go forward. And a lot of times for whatever reason they don't. And so, yeah, it is a bit of a burn for you there. And then also when you look at an agency recruiter, sometimes they're working with who knows how many clients, and there's a lot of, tug and pull. Some clients are amazing and you can't wait to tell them about, tell the candidate about the client. And some clients, you may not think they're the best, but because it's an agency, you're there to kind of promote what the role is and let the candidate decide. So there's just a lot of factors that go into it, and it can be very emotionally taxing. I saw a really compelling LinkedIn post not very long ago from somebody who works in an agency, and it had like thousands of likes. And she was basically saying, like, for her personally, she has days where she doesn't want to be a recruiter because it can be that hard. Like she was saying, I'm on the phone all day. I have to push through. I don't have time in between to like recalibrate and like breathe, and so that's real. It's true. Like sometimes I would have 12 calls a day, and that's a part of the job. That's what's expected. But at the same time, it's like, it can be a burn. It's a burn. That's, I think, a good way to describe it sometimes.
No, that's fair. And then for me, I just feel like anytime you have to deal with like a person in some way, shape, or form, because let's face it, kind of anything that you do, there's like a customer service aspect to it, whether you're like socializing or kind of helping the person through a screen, or like when you're, in real time, one-on-one. But anytime, you're trying to help somebody and you're dealing with another personality, like it is taxing.
Right.
'Cause I can remember when I was dental assisting, you know, I would, talk to patients, love what I did, but sometimes it would take me just 20 minutes to
Yeah.
get past like stuff that had absolutely
30
nothing
minutes.
to do.
Yes, the 30 minutes you've been talking to them and you're like, man, I'm still trying to recover from that call. And people are people, right? You cannot. One of my managers when I first started recruiting was like, we're in the business of people and you can't control people. Like they're not a commodity. You can't mass produce them. Some might be amazing. Some might be going through things and be in a different space and don't feel like being amazing to you. You have to take all kinds and factor that into whatever you're working on. And so, yeah, it can be hard. But I found that like I do really have a passion for it. And I enjoy working with people. It again is not the career I would have thought I'd be working in. But I really enjoy people. And so I like to help, like with what I've learned, like if I can give that back to people to help them and whatever they're going through and help them with their search, I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So what are 2 top tips that you're like, yeah, everyone just kind of do this, and like, or at least you need to implement these 2 things in your life from your recruiting standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, do you mean like job search wise, or do you mean like just in general?
Just in general, like from your interaction with people, because like you mentioned like communication, and just as a whole, I feel like we all kind of like struggle with communication. So just like in all your experience, 2 things that from your standpoint that you learned that you were like, yeah, everybody can kind of benefit from this.
Yeah, I think being patient is a big thing because a lot of times you may have an initial conversation, you may think some things are going to go one way, you may think things are not going to happen at all, and sometimes everything is just fine, or sometimes more work is needed. But being patient and really seeing how things play out is a big part of the day-to-day in that world.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is being empathetic. I try to really approach everyone like the way that I want to be approached. Like I really mean that when I say that to people. Like I try to really think, how would I want to be treated in this? Even if it means that I didn't get the job, like what would I want communicated on my behalf? And so that's the way I look at it. So I think empathy goes a long way. Some people, you would be shocked. I have always found that some people can't be empathetic, and I get that, and that's their way, right? It's all of us have our way of going through life, but empathy is a big thing, and I would tell everybody, try a little empathy. It helps you open your eyes to seeing what's really out there in the world. So
yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yes, patience and empathy, definitely. I can't even argue with that. That's the realest thing. That's the realest thing I've heard all day. Like seriously, and I feel like that's like the 2 things people most like struggle with, like just waiting either your time, your turn, or just showing just like a little empathy. Everybody needs it at some point or another.
right.
It's free. It's a free thing.
Yeah.
It is, but it is a free attribute that not everyone knows how to tap into. So, like I said, the realest thing I've heard all day.
Yeah. You know what? If you try it, just kind of putting maybe empathy is like a word that you're like, I don't ever want to hear in my vocabulary or whatever. But like, even if you just say to yourself, I'm just gonna put myself in that person's shoes just for a moment and think what it must be like to be them. It can really change your whole interactions with people. When I was going through my health coach training with Mind Body Green, and I'm sure they're fine with me mentioning their names, I will say that. One of the things that we actually did an exercise where you would write down like all the issues you were having with someone and all the anger that you were feeling. And then in response to that, you would, at first it would be directed at that person, you telling the person, and then the next part of the exercise was you telling yourself. So if you're saying this person is rude or this person is negative, like this is and you're writing this about a person who is getting on your nerves, basically, or like you're having a tough time with, right? But then you say at the same time, like, I am rude. I am overbearing. It is such a huge, like, a lot of us were like, what? Like, I don't want to say that. I remember somebody said, I've been through therapy. I know it's not me. And I was like, yes, no, it's not you. But, what the instructors were saying was like, you have to own it. We all have those traits too. And the only way we can see them sometimes is to verbalize and say, like, I am capable of those things just like that person is. And maybe that's why we don't like that person, because we see that in them. Or maybe that's why they drive us crazy. But yeah, I mean, that was very eye-opening for me. And so I use that in like my daily life. I really try to approach things that way.
No, that's awesome. I'm like, oh, like I guess, and then I feel like it's like an alternative spin on like being able to take accountability for like your own actions. And it's not to say that like you do it every day,
Right,
but
right.
just like you said, like that that's something that can come up, and it's like, okay, I know it can come up, and when I see it and recognize it, it's like, okay, let's kind of like evaluate this kind of a thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I love that spin on that. That's pretty cool. I might try
Yeah.
it sometime.
It's a good exercise. Like, I will find it or find like what they based it on and send that to you. Because I think everybody should do it, because I think it's a
Yeah.
good way of like helping us see the other side of things. Like, we're like, oh, I cannot stand my neighbor and they do this and that and this. And then if you say, well, I do that, and
Yeah.
I am noisy and I can be irritating, then you say, okay.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I would love that. And then we could give it out to the people and they could try their own, they could try the exercise for
Yeah.
themselves at home. And then we can all talk about it and talk about
Right,
how
right.
it was life changing.
Yes, if that helps people, I'm happy to share. That's one thing I'm happy to share. It was great for me.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So you did mention your health coaching. Tell me more, because that's exciting. I've gotten into my own, or at least making exercise a little bit more active in my day and really being conscious of it. So tell me more.
Yes, yes. So I originally started my health coaching like journey with nutrition. I think most people kind of enter the chat at nutrition, right?
Yeah.
Food is such a big thing, and we all care about food. We all care about what we look like. We're a weight obsessed culture, right? So I think
Totally.
people are always looking for the cheat codes, and how do I get there? My first like realization was that my husband had a food allergy, and I was just really trying to get to the bottom of like, well, if we change the way we eat, what could be different. And so that introduced me to a holistic nutritionist course, which I really liked. It was not through Mind Body Green, but it was through another organization. And I really liked it, but it basically told you to be a vegan. And not everybody is going to be a vegan. Like, I eat primarily plant-based, but I feel like if you're trying to nutrition coach people, it's probably not going to be like, it's not meeting people where they are, right? So then I heard about Mind Body Green's program, and they had a functional nutrition coach. And I was like, oh, well, that's more open. And it's more about getting to the root cause of like what's causing the issue versus like, just adopting a new way of eating. So that was the big change with them. And I took that course, and then I started to want to get the board certification, because I was like, if I'm a health coach, I would want somebody who's board certified, because to me that shows dedication.
Right.
And I heard about the MBHWC. That's the future, by the way. So like, if you get a health coach out there, you need to make sure they're NBHWC credentialed, because that is the way things are going. They're doing amazing things over there.
What do the letters represent or stand for?
Yeah, it's the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching.
Okay.
And so to have the NBHWC certification, once you're board credentialed, you're an NBHWC dash HWC, which is Health and Wellness Coach. So you are like, blessed with the credential.
Yes. So they know, everybody knows that you legit.
Exactly. And it's not easily gotten. So the programs are quite tricky. And I actually had explored a few of them before landing on Mind Body Green, because I kept wondering, I was like, when is Mind Body Green going to have this program? Because I don't want to go to these other people that I don't know. Like, I know the staff there. I've already been taking the program. They're going to have great instructors, which they did. And so when are they going to have it? And they had it. Funny enough, 6 months into my functional nutrition course, they said, oh, we're going to do the program. And signed up email. And so I signed up and, got in there, and the rest is history. It is really hard. It was a really, it was a really hard program. And I don't want to discourage people, because I think that's the way things are going. If you're a health and wellness coach, I think you should take some sort of program to get the credentialing, because there's so much on the horizon, like the ability to build insurance, for care. So that's going to be like life-changing for people who can't afford it, right?
Yeah.
Or just in general. And so, when I got in there, I was like, this is amazing, but it was a lot for me to manage, because I still had a full-time job. I have a 5-year-old son who's in school full-time, and then I'm married, and then I also was coaching independently. So it was a juggle. And they said it was around 4 to 5 hours a week. It was more than 4 to 5 hours a week. It was like, so many live sessions, triads to practice coaching, recorded coaching sessions. So, it really, I see colleges now having the same program and everything. So, it was a lot. But I was really happy at the end of it. I passed, and I'm excited. And so I have to sit for the board exam. I've not done it yet. The goal is to sit this July. But it was great. It was a great experience. And I love it because like I said, I came in with this focus on nutrition, and I came out being like, okay, people need support across the board. Like, there were sleep coaches, people that are focused on sleep coaching. One of the instructors was a well-being coach. One was a diabetes coach. So there was these areas of specialty, and also just like finding a niche, but also maybe not finding a niche. Maybe people just need help when they leave the doctor implementing their protocol. And that's what I think health coaching is. And it's not just like, a coach tells you what to do. This is like a change agent. We're going to talk, and we're going to figure out together how to change you. Not, me tell you, well, you need to eat greens, and you need to be a vegan, and you need to, do keto. Like, if you come to me and ask me, well, what should I do to eat to, get shape? What's the best diet? And you'd be like, what's the best diet for you? What foods do you like? What diets have you tried in the past? Which of those have worked and which haven't? And if they haven't worked, what obstacles stood in the way? These are things you have to consider. And the first time I was in a session and they were like asking questions like that, I was like, whoa, wait, this is way different. Like, I thought we just like write meal plan. Here you go. And then when we got into it, like the real psychology of it is like, oh, I'm helping people like figure it out. Just like kind of like, how therapists do, but it's not therapy at all, because they're deep into what is the existing issues and the root cause of a trauma, and they can live in the past and really help you through that. Coaching is about going forward, and the plan to going forward and removing the obstacles that stand in your way. So
so it sounds like you're going to be making a lot of transformations, because like I hear like a little lifestyle change in the mix of it. So I'm here for the transformation station.
Yes. So that's the thing. Like when we were talking, like it's so empowering to be able to help people get to where they want to go. And especially for women, I feel like we are nurturers by nature, of course. And a lot of times, if you choose to be, if you choose not to be a nurturer, that's amazing too. I think we can have whatever path we want, but even if we're not a nurturer or we're not a mother or whatever, we still feel compelled, because we're a woman, to kind of put ourselves on the back border and focus on other things. And so I think as women, having that realization that we need to take care of ourselves, these are the things we need to do to take care of ourselves and help figure out the best strategy to take care of ourselves. I think it's amazing. You know, it's amazing.
That's great. So at what point did you realize, like, holy crap, I have like a gift here, or like I can really like mobilize this like in a real legit way? Like, how did you get there?
I think it was actually when we were going through the sessions with class, because I was like, oh, you know, like I was saying, like originally when I first entered, I was thinking like, oh, this was just like more like, you know, coaching by leading. And it's not leading. I can't lead you. I have to guide you. Like with asking you the questions, I lead by self-discovery and you really lead yourself. And when I got in and realized that, oh, that's how things work, that was when it really changed for me, because I was like, well, I love that, because I don't tell you what to do.
Right.
We're figuring out what you're gonna do together.
Right.
And that was, I really made that, you know, discovery like within 2 to 3 months in the program. And then I like fell in love with it. And it's great. Like I've really, because I've been trying to figure out like where I want to focus, or I know now, but like I did some sleep coaching and that was amazing. And it's really interesting too, as you dive into things. Like I was working with someone and she was like, I just can't get a sleep routine together. So it's not like me telling her, oh, you need to do this, 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 and this. It was like, let's talk about what you do to go to sleep. And like, let's talk about your day. What kinds of things are you dealing with? Like, how are you eating? And so when we went through that, you know, I think at the end of like the second session, we made pacts on, you know, but I'm gonna turn off my cell phone by 7 o'clock, and I'm gonna, you know, set up a time that I wake up, and I'm gonna have a routine of like self-care in terms of the morning, because it was like roll out of bed as late as possible, get up because you've been up all night, you know. So but that's so interesting to me. Helping people discover that and go through that process is interesting to me. I think it's fascinating to go through the process and help people discover where they're trying to go and figure out what the cause of it is, and then plan to deal with that cause.
Yeah. No, that's dope. That, hey, I mean. So in all of this, like, what have you learned about yourself through all these like processes and just things that you put yourself through?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've learned that like I tend to procrastinate when it's overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like when I feel overwhelmed, I will, you know, put off something that is scary or like I'm not ready to deal with.
Right.
You know, I found out about myself that like I need to like be open to the way other people do things. Like not everybody's going to be like me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I also, I think, have learned that like I'm a fierce defender of like people being them and being their authentic self. And so I want to help people get there and feel comfortable doing that, you know, in whatever way that I can, you know?
Yeah, I'm a champion for that also, because I am who I am.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's just like, you know, we're all unique, all beautiful people. And it's just, you know, celebrate what you're bringing to the show, or just bringing to the spaces that you're in, and kind of own it, because ain't nobody else like you.
Right. And be you and love you for you. Like,
Yes.
I have got, there is, okay, so as a coach, you know, you have so many tools that you can use. One that I'm really interested in and I've like gotten hip to in the last few weeks and I'm learning more about is scripting. So like really, yes, so writing out your own script. So every day in the morning, write out what you want your life script to be. So not like I want to live in LA and die in Paris, whatever. Like, you know, like I want to be an organized person. I want to be authentic. I want to communicate with love. Like write these things out every day because you're changing the script of whatever's in your mind, and subconsciously you're
Okay.
changing yourself to this new script. And I am really digging that. And I think people should do it.
But wait, so how is that different than affirmations? Because it kind of sounds like a little affirmation-y.
Yeah, it can be affirmation-y. I think it's a different way of like to physically write something out, like to journal it, is to really plan it, and like it is kind of manifesting, but in a different way. It's more like thinking about it, like to physically put pen to paper and write out a feeling or a vision for yourself is very powerful, because you will go back and reflect on it each day. And if you write it each day and you believe it, you know, you will start to practice it and embrace it. And affirmations are great too, like, you know, looking in the mirror and also speaking to yourself. But there's just something powerful to me to writing it out and like preserving it there. And then when you come back, you do this for a block amount of time, whatever amount of time you want to do it for you. But to come back, you know, 60 days later and say, okay, I said I was going to be this person and now I am, you know. And then you can even take it further and say, okay, I'm going to challenge the negative aspects, any negative aspects I have of myself. I'm going to challenge it and tell myself why. Like you could do it that way too, like why I can do this versus why I can't do it. You know, I think those kind of things are so powerful, because I will go back and read them. Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, I can do this because of, you know, XYZ, whatever the reasoning is.
No, that's cool. And then I also like the aspect of the why, because then it's like you don't have to think about the why because the why is there, or not that you don't have to think about it, but you're like kind of tied to it a little stronger, or it just becomes that much more profound. Because I totally believe like if you write it down, it's gonna happen, because I'm a total believer in that, because I've written down like a bunch of things. And I've forgotten it probably like 30 days later, and I'm flipping through and I'm like, holy crap, I did that. I'm like, yes, it's true. Or like, that's my way to remember sometimes. It's like, if I haven't written it down at least once somewhere, it's just like, it just checks out of my brain. So there's definitely power in writing stuff down. So I'm with you on that.
Yes, I believe that's like the biggest way to like really start the process, because if you're writing it, you believe it, and it's like, you're embracing it, you know, physically. Because I think you can say it to yourself. I see a lot of people, they do the affirmations, like they'll get in the mirror and they'll be like, I'm great. Like, you know, like, and sometimes you don't want to look at yourself. Like, let's be honest, like we don't some days. Like we're like, man, man, this is a lot. You can write it down and you can just program yourself that way too. And if it makes you feel like, you can read it out loud too if you need to have that mirror time. But I just think to think it through and write out what you want, like that's
I like the scripting. It's a new fresh take on it, so I'm with it. And hey, I'll try something at least once before I say it's not for me. Although I'm like, in all fairness, I'm like, I feel like you got to at least try something at least 3 times to really say, you know, whether or not you like something. Because the first time anybody does anything, you suck ass.
Right. Exactly. So, you got like, that's like my son, like the thing for nutrition, nutritionists recommend it, like take 3 bites before you say you don't like it. Like it's the same thing. You got to try it 3 times before you say that's not for me.
Hey, at least I thanks. You just gave me confirmation that I be onto stuff sometimes.
Yes, you're on.
That it's not really a figment of my imagination. Because I'm just like,
you're right.
Don't know where this came from, but I'm gonna rock with it. So how much, if any, does like your recruiting or like your coaching persona kind of like filter in to day-to-day life, like being a wife or a mom? Because I feel like sometimes, you know, we just as women just kind of struggle to like turn it off, or at least in conversations that we have nowadays, a whole masculine woman, and just, you know, being as multifaceted as we are.
Well, I will tell you this. There is a lot of coaching and recruiting, because I know there are some recruiters that, you know, will just be like, okay, whatever you want, like, fine, I'll send your resume. I think you're great. But for me, I have very honest conversations with people. So I'm like, why are you interested in the role? And some people are kind of like, oh, well, no, I didn't ever, because, I think they think, well, I need a job. Like, yes, I know I need a job, but why are you interested in this job?
Right.
So I see a lot of crossover there. But then at home with like my husband and my son, yes, because I feel like the open-ended questions get to the bottom of things because he's 5 and he's just like, no, or like, I don't know. And I'm like, but why do you think you did this?
Right.
But it helps communicating with him, but I try not to overwhelm him because of course, I'm coming with all this information and all these books and all this stuff I've learned. So I try to tone it down. My husband, I've found that because I feel like it can be a lot, and he's just like a really like chill person. He doesn't want to think about that too much,
Right.
like overthinking it. And I know in my mind, I probably am thinking it through.
Yeah.
So I've learned to like pick and choose where I feel like I need to ask the coaching questions, because sometimes he'll say something. I'm like, well, why do you think you should do that?
Yeah.
And like, what have you done towards that? And then I'll feel myself doing it, so I'll be like, okay. And then I just try to like put myself back into like when we first met, I didn't know any of this stuff. So I just let myself be that person and try not to approach it as like a coach or, somebody trying to help you solve your problems, right?
Right.
Let it just be me and him in a relationship, and like we're just having a normal conversation as couples would.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm glad you're able to do that, and that, it's a thing. I'm just always curious, because sometimes I'm just like, sometimes I know sometimes I can just bring stuff over, not intentionally, and my husband is just looking at me like, lady, what are you talking about? And how did we get here? And I'm like,
that's just like if somebody's dating a therapist, or married to a therapist, and then, you're starting to get the therapy, like they go into that therapy role, like, it's not like if you're doing that at home, it might not be the best usage of those tools. So like, if I think it can be beneficial to ask those probing questions, then I will. But like in a normal day, let's just talk about what happened at work. Was it crazy? Let me tell you what happened over here, because I think that's good for a couple to be as normal as possible without trying to solve each other.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it makes me think of the Harry and Meghan. Like they're all like, we need to meditate together, and I'm like, and just take a break. Like maybe I'll just need to go for a walk, or maybe have drinks together. Like
it have to be that intense, like
right.
like I get it, but
Yeah.
chill out. I'm not your client.
Just like that made me mad. Like we don't need to meditate about anything. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I hear you. So what are you most excited about in 2023 coming up? Because I know you told me some stuff off screen.
Yes. So my goal is to really get a group launched that can be about resilience and help, women primarily. Sorry, guys, maybe I'll come up with one for guys. But have women primarily have this place where they can work on resilience and just themselves, just overall. I just want it to be like a safe space where people can verbalize what they're feeling, and then get support from peers, and then also for me to help facilitate so that they can feel empowered. Because, if people don't feel heard and they feel like they're isolated and alone in what they're going through, then, they're not going to try to seek change. So I want to set a safe space for that, and then be the steerer of the ship, the captain, but really let the crew, being all of us, run everything, as that really happens on a boat anyway, right? So that's my vision for that. And that I originally wanted to launch that in April. I think realistically now I've had, as but people watching this may not know, I've had some changes, my home life. So I will probably be looking more realistically in a June launch now. But yeah, that is upcoming. And stay tuned on Instagram because that's where I post all that stuff, for more information on that. And then the other thing about 2023 is just coaching and helping people. I love it. And so, I'm looking forward to working with more people this year and helping them find the best version of themselves. That's really, what my role is in the whole thing. So,
oh, nice.
Exciting to me.
Did you set a target number of women that you want to help? Because I don't know. That question has been following me throughout the week. So I'm just like, let me just take my own poll to see how many people are really thinking about the number that they want to reach.
Yeah, I think that in coaching, like, there are people that go coach for organizations like Noom and they'll deal with like 100 people a month or something like that. That to me feels
a lot
overwhelming and inauthentic, right? Because I can't really help you if I don't get to know you.
Yeah.
So I think my goal for the group, it would be 10. I think that would be max. And then in a coaching setting, I try to be no more than, like right now, 5 people a month. I think that's a good place to be. And it takes about 90 days to really get yourself to a graduation point from coaching. And then you can, bring more people in and help another set for however long they need. I think some people need more than 90 days, and that's always fine too. But typically around 90 days is when you really start to see your habits change and start to feel like you have the tools you need to go forward.
Got it. No, I love it. So my last question for the afternoon is, well, I guess a 2-part question. I love a good 2-part. Is where can people contact you? And before they contact you, what are 3 things that they should know about you so that they know that you would be a good match for them?
Yeah, so I think the 3 things that people should know is I'm very authentic. So like I'm gonna be honest with you and open. I'm not gonna say what you want to hear, which the style of coaching that I've been trained in, you're not really supposed to do that anyway, right? So I'm gonna be authentic, but at the same time, try to hear what you're looking for and communicate with you in a way that like doesn't feel like you're being put on, right?
Got it.
The other thing about me is that I'm very time oriented in terms of like connections. So like if it's and I know you would probably laugh at this because I know we've had to reschedule, but I really typically, like if you're coming to get coached, like I want you to be committed and be in a space where you really want to make some changes, because that's going to be the best usage of your time and the best usage of my time. So that would be the second thing. And then the third thing would just be, I love to laugh. I want you, it's not a very severe thing. Like I want us to laugh. I want us to dialogue. I want to be able to help you just feel like you can communicate in that safe space with me. But at the same time, it's all about you. So it's not going to be me telling you what to do. It's going to be me listening to you, but we're going to laugh and we're going to have fun along the way. I'm a fun person. So if you're not a fun person, that's probably asterisk at the top. Like, I'm silly and like I may, I'll never be disrespectful, but I'll always be like, is that what you really wanted to do? That's my personality. So if you are any of those things or looking for those things, I'd be the person for you. And then the other part, the best way to get a hold of me is either on Instagram, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Tammie Letroise Brown on LinkedIn. I'm probably the only one, so you would find me there. And I'm happy to help with career coaching too. Like I'm not a career coach, but if you want coaching and like a holistic approach to job searching, I'm open to doing that. That's not, part of my repertoire, but I realize that people could benefit from that. So if that's something you're interested in doing, definitely reach out. And then you can always email me. It's the Wellness Project with tlb@gmail.com. So
Sweet. Yes. And don't worry, guys, all of that information is going to be in the little show notes. So it's just a click away.
yes.
Yes, but thank you again for joining me on today's episode. I feel like we had a lot of fun in our conversation.
We did. Yes.
Our energy definitely attracted and definitely aligned, and I had a bunch of fun. And I know we've given away some really good information to all the women that are listening. And just, yeah, I can't wait to see your coaching program roll out. I will definitely be liking and chatting it up because I enjoy you. I just met you and I enjoy you.
Same here, girl.
So this is totally cool. So yeah, guys, I will catch you on another episode next week. And if you didn't hear it today, remember, you are strong, you are worthy, and you are enough. And I will see you next time. Toodles.